Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to my channel, Nelly the Narcissist. Thank you so much for joining today. For those of you that are new, a very warm welcome to everybody. Nelly the Narcissist is the character and the face of the channel, the motif, and she's the character that I portray in my comedy skits. I'm not personally a narcissist, but I'm going to make a link to the comedy in the video description. If you haven't seen any of those, then this is how my channel started. I invite you to go and have a look. And in today's podcast, I'm going to be sharing with you quite a potent download that I received actually last night in the shower. And it really blew my mind, and I had to quickly finish what I was doing and write it down. And I know the psychology of narcissistic personality disorder pretty well. And, there are several concepts in psychology that I want to reevaluate today. And in this discussion, I'm going to be sharing some information from Sam Vaknin and Richard Grennan that I think, are two leaders in this field of psychology and narcissism online. Obviously, there are many others, but today I want to speak about these two in particular. And one of the main topics that I'm going to be looking at is the concept of the false self and its creation. In psychology, we're told that this is a defense against reality. And what I believe, and what I got with my aha moment in the shower, is that the false self is actually the result of the narcissist's very dark level spiritual takeover and entity attachment. And I'd like to highlight NPD instead of a personality disorder and psychological issue as a soul level corruption and spiritual affliction. I don't believe that narcissists are just emotionally stunted. I believe they're spiritually disconnected and they feed basically off of the life energy of others as spiritual parasites. So I hope that this will be an interesting and even insightful discussion, and it will be fairly in-depth. So I hope that you can stay and make yourself comfortable, grab yourself a drink. And if you resonate with today's video, then please do remember, give it a like, share it with anybody that you think is going to help, and also comment your thoughts down below. So I want to start with a couple of quotes that I made in my previous video, my demonic part 2, link in the video description. This was a PDF document that I found on Scribd called Piercing the Veil of Reality about organic portals and soulless humans. A considerable percentage of people we meet on the streets are people who are empty inside. That is, they are actually already dead. That quote actually goes on, and again, I'll link everything down below, but I want to quote number 2. There are some human beings who are like vampires. What are they and why are they like that? So these are two different writers, two different quotes. I'm going to link it all down below so you can find out who said these things and where to find it. Now, the writers of these quotes were not meaning this in a figurative sense. They were meaning it in a spiritual sense, in a real core sense. Psychology tells us that narcissists are dead inside. In fact, Sam Vaknin, who is a narcissist, and I know a lot of you don't watch his channel or like his content literally because of that, but I've heard him say a multitude of times that narcissists are gone. There's no one there. And he stresses, and he keeps on stressing, they're gone. And to quote something that he always says, which I think is super important, he says they're an absence masquerading for a presence. Yet there is an internal darkness. And he says that there is a person that never fully became a person, that the process was disrupted and there's a void where a person should have been. And what really jumped to my attention is I realized that nobody stops even for a second to consider what this means on a holistic and spiritual level, not just in the psychology. What does it mean if someone's gone? When a person has such a void of a human personality and human center, what does that actually mean? This, I'm telling you, is spiritual, and we have to come out of the psychology, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because the psychology will often focus upon that void and the absence, and will speak like Sam Vaknin about the internal darkness, and sometimes even allude to the drive towards doing evil. And yet psychology will never touch upon where that actually comes from. Because I'll tell you something, it definitely comes from somewhere. And this is something that psychology can never and will never explain, no matter how hard, it tries, it won't get there, because this is not something that can be explained through the human brain, because this is not on a brain level, this is on a soul level. I spoke before, and I'm going to link that down below in the video description if you haven't seen that video, that I don't believe for a second that narcissistic personality disorder is born out of trauma and genetics alone. Otherwise, everybody would be narcissists that had trauma and the genetic predisposition towards becoming a narcissist. It doesn't work like that. There is something else. But if we get back to the topic of the narcissist as an absence masquerading as a presence, and what this void really means. What I believe that it really means is early on, the narcissist has been taken over by entities or spirits. The real self and the soul has been pushed to one side. And these entities, they've taken precedence. The void is the absence of the human feeling. It's the soul of the person that hasn't evolved as a person really should. Because early on, they have been spiritually somehow corrupted by this energy that's really taken hold. But I do believe that on some level, even though, this would have happened very young, a door must have been opened to this possibility for this to come to be. And that's why so many people believe that some kind of a covenant was somehow made and created, and their soul was given away. And I really do know that that sounds ludicrous to many, and this isn't honestly a wild claim that I'm just throwing out there. But there is actually a lot of evidence through people's real life experiences to support what I'm saying. And I've actually started a new series about it, and I'm going to link that down below also. For me, because I experienced it myself, I really do believe there is a far darker presence behind the steering wheel of the narcissist that's putting them into gear. And this is particularly true, I think, for the malignant narcissists that are highly dangerous. Personally, I do believe that they are there still in the vehicle and they're going along for the ride, and they're not challenging the driver or saying, stop the car, I want to get out here. Because to frame this that they have no presence at all and that it's not them would be to remove all accountability. And a subscriber said in the comments, and I think it's very right, that the feelings of shame and this cover up to not want to be seen is the actual person. It's the narcissist that knows that what they're doing is wrong, but they're going to do wrong anyway because they're so strongly compelled to do it. And there's something inside of them which gets off on it too. And if this was a straight up entity or demonic, being, I don't think there would be any degree of shame. But I do believe there is the same energetic influence driving all of them, because they all behave in exactly the same way from exactly the same script. And how I see it, because, I've heard from a lot of people on this, they're on exactly the same spiritual assignment. Sam Vaknin actually alluded to this himself in his video about malignant narcissists, and I'm going to link that one below also if you want to see. Now, he said, a philosophical question is raised when it comes to malignant narcissists being internally absent, because, he never ever mentions anything about spirituality, even though this is a spiritual question, but not surprisingly, he doesn't. His question was, if the lights are out and nobody's there inside the narcissist, then who does the experiencing? Who is doing the experiencing of people's reactions to the fourth self? Who is there? And he got so close to the truth, but not quite, when he said it's the sadist that's doing the experiencing. Do you realize how close to the truth that is? It's like Sherlock Holmes that's so close to solving the mystery, but not quite. Because the sadist is most certainly the presence that is doing the experiencing. But who or what is behind the sadist? Because the sadist doesn't just spring out of nowhere, is not derived somewhere from the human brain. It's connected to something else. And with the term sadist, you may as well say Satanist, because this is the presence of evil. And in this video with Sam, he gets incredibly close to that spiritual level of narcissism. And I don't believe, he will know how close he got. But if you see that video, you're going to understand what I mean. He even goes on to speak about how pain is the mediator of existence in many mental illnesses. And what he didn't say, and what he may not know, is the demonic and these evil spiritual entities are fueled and they feed on pain and human suffering. I felt for a very long time, however unconsciously, that the narcissist needed my life force, and really not just my life force in order to sustain them, but the life force of many others. This basically is better known in psychology as narcissistic supply, and we know all about that. But what this really is life energy. It's your energy. But why energy? Why do they need to get energy from you and others in ways that you and I don't need to do that? They need your energy because you're alive and you're connected to positivity and positive flow. And what is positivity? It's the feelings of pure love, pure joy, peace. Narcissists can't feel any of these things. And the very reason for this is because this positive energy that most of us are connected to is divine, and it's coming from the divine source, from God. But narcissists aren't connected to this. And because of that, they aren't fully alive. And that connection is like oxygen that we breathe. It's the energetic source that feeds us. And the more positivity, the stronger this connection, the more energy we have. Why do they need to get energy from you and others in ways that you and I don't need to do that? They need your energy because you're alive and you are connected to positivity and positive flow. And what is positivity? It's the feelings of pure love, joy, and peace. Narcissists, they can't feel those things. And the very reason for this is because this positive energy that most of us are connected to is divine, and it's coming from the divine source, from God. Narcissists aren't connected to this, and because of that, they aren't fully alive. And that connection is like oxygen that we breathe. It's the energetic source that feeds us. And the more positivity, the stronger that connection, the more energy we have. And I'm sure most of you know what it's like to be filled with negativity, because we all become very negative around narcissists. They bring us down as they transfer that energy to us. But even, if they weren't there, I'm sure, the energy of depression and sadness and anger and jealousy and all of those negative feelings, they're very, very draining, and they impact our energy massively on the negative. It brings us down. Whereas positive energy, positive emotions uplift us. For narcissists, they live their life in the negative. Their being is tuned to the negative. It's very dense and dark energy. It's very draining. It must be very, very draining. And I'm going to say something now that I really feel is true. I believe that demonic entities feed off of negativity. So I do believe that this parasitic energy also has a domino effect, because I think that the original parasites are the demonic entities attached to and feeding off of the pain and negativity of narcissists. And then the narcissist feeds off of us, needs to keep up the pain cycle to keep on getting fed. A point that I'd also like to touch upon about narcissistic supply is narcissists, they don't always choose people based on the merit of material benefits and also what you can provide, on the social level exposure, because we know how much they hunger for power, yeah? But many will choose based on your energy, which is the food and the fuel for narcissistic supply. It's your energy. I saw the narcissist reject supplies that were in far better, material status than me. And so why was I chosen? Because I had more energy to offer. And this also correlates to how much light you hold. That is something that narcissists are able to feel. And the narcissist I was involved with commented many times, whenever I was around physically, especially, the narcissist was recharged. The narcissist was aware, you see, that I was plugged into the divine source. And you may have seen that podcast and comedy skit that I made about why narcissists love the fuel of empath. If you haven't seen that, then obviously I will link that also below. And the comedy skit I really think is one of the best ones that I've made so far today. And it's all about them needing to be plugged into you, and your switch needs to be on and the current needs to be flowing to them. But they will drain your battery. And that is part of the reason that they need to keep hopping from one person to the next. There are many factors involved, but they're going to drain your life energy. And then you see, when you don't have enough to put out, they need to go elsewhere because it's a constant craving, constant need. So much more than that, it's vital for them to feed. And why? Like a vampire, that needs blood. If they don't get life and life energy fed to them, they will wither away. They won't survive for long. And why? Because they can't generate energy themselves due to the very fact that they have nothing internal to draw from. Because going back to the quote from the start, of the podcast, they're not really living beings despite being alive and looking human. And I do know that this may be a strange or complex subject to really get your head around, but it's really true. They're just, as I've quoted a million times from Sam Vaknin, the living dead. And obviously, he's quoting that in a purely psychological sense. And I'm expanding this to a spiritual dimension because there is certainly a reason spiritually why they are the living dead. For anybody that spends a longer period of time with a narcissist, and also if you live with one, then you realize with time that the person that you once believed had it all going on, was so smart, so vibrant, so interesting, is just an empty, hollow vessel that's incredibly superficial. And anything that you found that was interesting before, you come to learn that it's a script that's overused and sold to everybody. And then basically it grows old because there is only ever surface level to narcissists. There's no depth, there's no authenticity. And most people come to this understanding, but it's not like there is nothing inside. But what there is not the depth of a soul or human being, but literally a vortex of pure negative energy. And in many cases, it's the frightening presence of evil. And that is hidden from most people, but the closer that you get to them, the more that you're going to get exposure to this dark truth. So getting on to the creation of the force self that I want to speak about, I've got an interesting thought to share with you now. Because I remember Richard Grannon, him speaking again, how the narcissist has sacrificed their true self and how from then on forward, they need fresh blood and new sacrifices, which is it's your sacrifice to appease their false self. What I actually think Richard is onto here is totally right. They have sacrificed and they forfeited themselves. But what I really believe that this is, the true self is the soul. And indeed, that has been sacrificed. It's been thrown to the fire. And the false self, in my humble opinion, is the human facade that is used as a pretense by these entities working through the narcissist's earthly body. The false self is the result of the spiritual corruption and complete takeover of these entities, and the human level and internal presence that I call, and I believe as, the soul, has become infected and diseased. And it's these seeds of evil that have done this. They've planted and they've taken root. The connection to love, to truth, to the divine, eternal spirit, to God, completely disappears. And instead, this evil, it takes over and it creeps bit by bit until literally it becomes them. Remember the Ethiopian proverb that a subscriber shared. Evil enters like a needle and spreads like an oak tree. And that's a disease. And diseases spread if they're not treated and they're not caught soon. What Richard calls sacrificing their true self, I would say, is much more them selling their soul. It's the covenant that was made to the you-know-who. And as crazy as that sounds, there have been psychiatry professionals that have searched further than psychology because they felt it really doesn't have all the answers. And also there are a lot of narcissists that either allude to or directly tell people that they sold their soul to the devil. And they mean it, literally. And most people think, what a weird thing to say. But they're actually being honest, which is really not like them. But this is the rare occasion that they are honest because I think that they find it funny because nobody's going to believe it anyway. I've even heard survivors saying that the narcissist told them that they were possessed. I mean, seriously. And they even spoke the name of the demons attached to them. And even I've heard accounts of narcissists speaking in different voices and even different languages, and survivors making contact themselves with a demonic entity. And then when this episode is finished and the narcissist seems to be, sort of back in the room, the survivor then has told them what happened. And the narcissist is not shocked in the slightest, but says something to, the surprise of the person to let them know that they're quite aware of that entity. When that happens, it's even weirder. But in my own story, at the end, I was shown the entity or entities, I think is more like it, within the narcissist. Perhaps they are even the narcissist. I was shocked, but the narcissist certainly wasn't shocked. My internal reaction, that obviously I never ever said out loud, was, oh my gosh, and you've known about this the entire time, and you've purposely, obviously, kept this a secret from me. That was the thing that shocked me the most, coming to this realization that the narcissist knew of the demonic level that was within them. I know that this narcissist was hoping to ride off of the back of my life, coast off of my energy, and I stress that because it's yours, it's not theirs, while simultaneously wishing me gone. I'm going to red rum you kind of thing. There was this real sick desire and disgust of who I was. And this, it goes for all of them. They despise us. And why such a hatred? Because they hate your light. They hate everything that you represent. And unknown to you, if you're not spiritual, they hate everything that you stand for, because if you have love in your heart, you also are connected to God. You're connected to the divine spirit, to the divine source. There is something within the narcissist that absolutely loathes that something within you. And if we cut through all of the psychology and go really deep, this is totally spiritual. The foundations for this are spiritual. Narcissists are hostiles. They're hostile to love, they're hostile to truth, and they're hostile to light. They're hostile to the living, and I mean the truly living, those that are alive and their hearts are held and are beating to the one heart. Bob Marley sang all about this all of the time. That was his message. It's the spiritual connection to the oneness, the one heart, the breath of life, which is divine, and it connects most of us. But not all of us, as we found out. Not everybody has love. At the point when evil and this energy has been accepted, the narcissist or narcopath becomes an organic portal for these entities to work through. And the entities do demand sacrifices because that's their wish, is to destroy and take life and create chaos and destruction and pain for the living and for the good. They do need sacrifices and they do need energy to feed off of. They came in to, do earthly damage while staying behind the scenes inside their own plane of existence. Having a body, having control of a body, they have more power, and they all wish to destroy. And when this moves up the scale into malignancy with a narcissist, they really do have a desire to red rum. They are opposing life and everything that's good. And they rage against love because they despise it so much. They're opposing life and literally everything that is good. And they rage against love because they despise it. So they hate you for everything that you stand for, which includes your life and your love. So in their mind, you must be destroyed for that. And whatever's going on with them, they really have exactly the same inbuilt machine for mass human destruction. They're walking dangers to humankind. And the reason is they're built to target the living and the loving. in terms of the life fuel and the energy that they need, for narcissistic supply, they can't feed on themselves. It's like a vampire drinking the blood of somebody dead. I don't know if you've seen the films, the folklore. Vampires must never drink the blood of somebody that's already dead, because they will literally die themselves. They will perish in a very nasty way. It's like drinking poison. And so too, if a narcissist tries to get supply and tries to feed off of others of their kind, it's not really going to work, and it will probably, make them sick. They need life, which is why they target the living. And as I said before, who has the most life? Those who have got the most love. Love gives you color to your spirit. And it's the divine connection to the source and to God that feeds us. We don't need to go to others to get fed like narcissists do, because the divine spirit is feeding us. Narcissists, they can't get this spiritual food. And the reason that I see is that when they signed themselves away and they handed their soul to the darkness, they literally lost connection and access to this. They turned away, but in doing this, they also lost life, and they can't sustain themselves without having this thing called narcissistic supply to hold up this false self. For me, this is fuel for the demonic level. Love is life and all is love. To be loveless is to be dead inside. I can't imagine what that must be like. That's no life. And the narcissist does want those human sacrifices to appease their leader, because this is demonic. Evil entities, they want to claim souls, and they want human lives. They want us all entrapped and enslaved, singing basically to their hymn sheet. They don't want us free. They don't want us living in truth. They don't want us in love or joy, basically the positive emotions. They don't want us to feel those higher vibrational frequencies, because when we feel those frequencies of love, joy, and peace, we're closer to our divine truth, to the essence of who we actually are, and we're closer to God. And remember, they're coming in to break that connection. The mission of these dark entities is to steal you away from the path of truth, away from who you are. So they need to try to end your love, end your peace, and end your joy. The narcissist is gone, and the narcissist is dead inside. And in exchange, what they need is your life and other people's lives. And like I said, they steal life energy from people. They siphon it away because they don't have it of their own. So they say, feed me, feed me. And if I stay around long enough, and you let me stay around long enough, I will completely devour you until there is nothing left. Have you ever seen that film Hocus Pocus with those witches that came back to life, and they were really, really old and haggard, and the only way that they could live and sustain themselves and be youthful was to literally suck the life from others? Watch that film and pay attention when those witches are sucking the life force out of people, because this is a visual image that is done through narcissistic abuse. Exactly the same. They breathe us in, they drink us in, they devour us, and they ingest us. But this isn't cannibalism, because this isn't on a physical level. They're spiritually draining us. This is a parasite. Like I said, it's a spiritual parasite that always needs to be plugged into a host. They need to find somebody that's got a battery that is fully charged, because their own battery is dead. And it's beyond the point of being rechargeable. Think of anything and everything that they do. They always want to know this question: can I get your energy? And what kind of energy can I get from you? What's the quality of this energy? Because if it's really good and they can get a lot from you, then they're going to stick around. And look at it like your spiritual connection to the source of life is like a wellspring, a gorgeous fountain inside of you. And it's overflowing with life, and it's shimmering, and it's beautiful, it's colorful. The narcissist doesn't have that. They just have a blackened core. They see all of this color, all of this light and life, and they want in. They want to bring a cup, and they want to fill up from this fountain. And you may, and you probably do, allow them to have a drink from this cup. So they keep on returning again and again and again until they're like, you know what? I'm leaving this cup behind. I'm just going to bring a giant hose and I'm going to just siphon this out of this well. And if they're around for long enough, they're going to withdraw everything until they take you down to your last reserves. And that's why people get so sick. And the narcissist will always need to be soul-sucking and plugged into the reserves of other people because they don't have their own internal source. Why? Like I said, because the divine spirit, God, is life and gives all life. And what is the energy that created worlds and universes? It's unconditional love. That's why I say love is life. If you're not connected to love, you're not connected to life. If the narcissist sees your energy as very valuable to them and it gives them a lot of fuel, watch out, because your life and your health will be at serious risk if you don't understand why they need you. If you're a valuable trade for them, meaning if they're able to get you in their possession and under their influence, then this will be spiritual entrapment. And it will be difficult to get away. What you need to know is that the reason that they want you is not for the reasons that you may want somebody around. They really do want and intend to throw us on the sacrificial pile. And you're going to be served as food on a silver platter to whatever dark energy that they're part of. And this is somebody with wicked intentions that really cannot and should never be trusted. And the moment that we can realize that our life is going in exchange for giving them fuel to energize this wickedness and enable them, basically the power to harm more people, I hope that we can each make the choice to choose the living and to choose life, to choose ourselves. The narcissist and narcopath does not care about anybody. They just want human lives dished up and served to them. And your energy and your connection to who you are and the divine source and to God within you is far too valuable and precious to waste or give to them. So I hope that this video has been helpful and useful to you today. If you resonate, do leave me a comment below. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, sending love, and I'll see you all again next time.